Hey everyone, welcome back to the Polyglot Developer Twitch stream. This is another stream, another topic. With me today, I have Ray Camden, who's dialing in from Louisiana, right?
From the swamp. I'm actually in the swamp right now, sitting on my alligator. It's all good down here.
That's because that's the first thing people think, right?
Yes, swamps and vampires.
Vampires too. I
That's what
haven't
makes
heard
it.
that one.
Oh, that HBO show, True Blood, was set down here. So
Is it?
yeah, yes. Remember True Blood?
I've heard of it. I'm usually not an HBO subscriber, but every once in a while.
Uh, gotcha, gotcha.
Before we jump right in, I want to go over some logistics. So, for example, we are live, and there is a chat. So feel free to engage with us throughout the chat. If you have any questions for Ray, please go ahead and enter them. I'll read them off to him. Or if you have questions for me too, happy to receive questions. This is still a work in progress kind of stream. So if there's audio issues, video issues, drop us a comment in the chat so that way we can try to fix them. Because otherwise I'm not listening to the stream as it goes live. I'm just communicating with Ray directly. So please let us know. I will be providing various kind of plugs for Ray throughout in the chat. So his website, his Twitter. Hey, how's it going, Taylor May from Florida? So yeah, so chat very active. But Ray, what are we doing today?
We're going to talk about the best static site generator there is. And I've said it's best, so therefore, and this is on the internet. So because I said it on the internet, it has to be true.
So hold on for a second. So first you said Hugo is the best, and I believed you. So I jumped on the Hugo train, and then you're like, no, Hugo is no good. I'm jumping on the Jekyll train.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
going on, man?
All right, I will give you like my personal opinion, and to be clear, there are great people working on Hugo, great people working on Jekyll, great communities all around, and yada yada yada. I used Hugo because it was very fast, and I have a large site. I have 6,000 blog posts, and Hugo was very very fast. But Hugo is extremely opinionated about how it wants to do things, and I remember. I needed to create a list of my last 5 blog articles in JSON, which is like nothing, right? And I could not get Hugo to output
Yeah.
JSON. At some point, they added that support, and I was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll upgrade and work with it." And I looked at their docs, and it just made no sense to me. And I asked for examples, I begged for examples, I got some sometimes. It did not help at all. And I don't put the blame on them. It was like I was not smart enough to understand how they did it. And I realized, like, why am I fighting this when there's like 500 other generators out there?
Yeah.
So I switched to Jekyll. Jekyll was definitely a lot easier to use. It just kind of meshed better with how I did things.
Even with the Ruby
The only
dependencies?
thing, yeah, I was going to
Oh,
say, so
sorry.
the only thing that was an issue was Ruby. So. And so I was already using a weird system. I'm using Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows. So getting Ruby to work in that, like the first time I did it was like an 8-hour process. It was horrible. Second time it was like 4 hours. I got a new laptop back in November, and I can remember I was like dreading getting Jekyll set up. It actually went okay. It wasn't too bad, but like even though like once I get it running, it's fine. I still like I worry like I'm gonna sneeze and the whole thing is gonna
Yeah.
crumble, or WSL is gonna update. It's gonna break some weird dependency and blah 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 blah. So I was done with Ruby, and I had heard of Eleventy. I knew it was Node based. I
Yeah.
like Node. I know it a little bit, and it was just like amazing. Like I kept like going through docs saying, "Oh crap, that's really cool!" Like, "Oh my god, that's really really neat." And also Eleventy, and this is something I won't talk about later. And forgive me if I'm going too fast and like preaching up here, but Eleventy does something that I've seen no other generator do. It solves a problem that I've not seen any other one do, and like that was like the final like thing for me. I'm like, all right, from now on, I'm only doing Eleventy. I transitioned my website about a month or so ago, to Eleventy, and I've been very, very happy with it. It was not as fast as Hugo, but we're talking like a minute build time to 5 to 6 minutes. And if I blog 4 times a month, that's like no big deal. And Netlify handles all that. I just do my git commit, go get a cup of coffee, and I'm fine.
Yeah. So I'm honestly, I've been following you for a while. So at the time that you switched over to Jekyll, you were getting into Vue a lot, and I'm surprised you didn't go down the Vue press route.
So I'm happy you asked me that. The static site generators that are tied to front end frameworks, it's hard to explain. Like they don't feel like something I want to use. Like they tend to be focused more on single page applications, and like my blog is definitely not a single page application, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So ViewPress in particular, it started off really good. The docs have not been
Yeah.
great. Again, I know people on that team. No offense, I expressed to them the issues I have with their docs, so that's not necessarily a secret. But like Nuxt, which is view based, it's very cool, but it didn't feel like something that I wanted to use. So I like that in Eleventy, I have no preconceived notions about what the end product is. I feel like I could do anything with it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Makes sense. Well, I've been hearing great things about Eleventy. I personally am using Hugo, and I have at the moment no plans to switch, but that doesn't mean that I won't in the future. So let's hear it, man. Let's hear
Yeah,
why Eleventy is so fantastic. Show us around. Give us a tour.
yeah. Let me do a quick demo. And so like this is my first like Twitch
Yeah.
stream where I'm like writing code live. So I'm a little bit nervous. But so the first thing that you would want to do with Eleventy is install it. I'm not going to do that
Yep.
because I already have, but I will show you the
And can you zoom in
command.
just maybe one or two
And
times?
it's npm I. Oh my God, nope. Let me.
One time is enough.
I'm not sure how to make just the terminal bigger, but you know, I will get
Yeah.
out
Well, I don't know.
of
Maybe if somebody in the chat
code.
wants to say
Not
something,
code.
maybe it is readable to them, and it's just me that is being overly cautious.
Well, I have this open. I like my cat
Yeah.
background. If people in the chat room are okay with this, then I will keep it like that. Let me get to my folder. Yes, Microsoft likes to capitalize everything. All right. You would begin by doing an npm installation, npm i-g at Eleventy. By the way, I love Eleventy. I can't spell
Yeah.
it at all. So this will do the global install. In their
Yeah.
docs, they actually recommend doing a local install for your project and then
Yeah.
using npx. I think I'm the last person not using
I
npx
don't use it.
religiously. I know it's
Yeah.
cool and all that, and I really should because
I don't.
what's
I don't
that?
use it personally.
I'm
I
sorry, what?
mean, this could be false
Oh,
completely, but I am under the impression that it downloads everything every time without caching it. So I don't. It tends to take a long
yeah.
time. Maybe it could be false. I don't know.
I think that's kind of my concern as well. And NPM in general on WSL
Yeah.
is slow. I know Microsoft is fixing that in the next iteration, but I need something now that makes sense. That's also why I'm not going to run this now and have it go through, installing everything. I already have it on my system. And once you do that, you get the 11e CLI. Now, what I like about the CLI is as open-ended as 11 is, as like wild, crazy, you can do whatever you want to with it. The CLI, the CLI is actually incredibly
Sure.
simple. Basically, it has two commands: either take my crap and output static, or look at my current folder, set up a web server, and like as you write stuff, it will recompile and also reload your
Yeah.
browser as well. And there's definitely some arguments you could pass in, but essentially like that's it. So if I'll make a quick folder just to play around in, and like the simplest example, and I'll go back to code here and write a quick Markdown file called
So you're
index.md.
calling everything
Do
trash?
compound hello world.
Is that your naming convention?
What's
Calling
that?
everything trash?
Tra- So, like my convention, when I'm giving a presentation, and I fire up a quick sample application as a way to know that I don't need to
Yeah.
keep it, I'll call it trash. If it's like a demo that I've already pre-built and that's being kept in the GitHub or whatever, it's not in trash. So, yes, I have no plans on keeping this particular folder. I will make sure I didn't screw up my Markdown. Thank you, Visual Studio Code. You rock.
Is Markdown the only supported
Anyway,
format?
so I have a Markdown. Not at all. And let me get to that in a minute. I'll start with Markdown because it's the simplest. But once I have a Markdown file, I can just type Eleventy, run it, and it's going to scan my folder. It's going to output to a folder called underscore
Yes.
site, and you could definitely configure that to be something else. And that's it. It's done. So in this regard, it's literally just the Markdown
Yeah.
converted. So that's probably not terribly exciting because it's just compiling
So it's
Markdown. But I'll show you the other.
have you happened to use Pandoc
Mhm.
before? Have you ever
What's
used
that? Oh,
Pandoc?
Pandoc? Yeah.
So does it do the similar thing where if you wanted to convert Markdown to HTML, it just does that kind of thing, but probably a lot faster?
Yes. Yeah, probably so. So you had asked about template languages. So Eleventy supports a bunch of them, which is
Yeah.
really nice. So I don't know them all by memory, but it is listed out. I know one is Liquid, which is what Jekyll uses. Where's the list? Yeah,
Can you zoom in just a
nunchucks,
bit?
Liquid, handlebars.
Sorry, I'm just going to keep harassing you about zooming. It's what I do.
That's all right. Um, handlebars, mustache, EJS, Hamel, and Pug. If you don't know Pug, Pug is the new name of Jade. Apparently there was some copyright issue, but it's still Jade, so don't use it because Jade
I
is
was going to say the
horrible.
exact same thing.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Jade. And I will say EJS is pretty horrible as well. It's a lot like classic ASP. However, one of the cool things about Eleventy is that you can use any number of these languages in
Yeah.
one project. So like on my blog, I use Liquid because that's the one I was used to because of Jekyll. Liquid's pretty good, it has a good language, but I needed to have a lot more control over one page in my entire blog. That's my stats page. I'm doing a lot of weird like number crunching and crap like that. So for that one page, I just wrote EJS, and I hated to write the EJS because it's ugly, but it does
Yeah.
anything. So I did that one page in EJS, and then Eleventy is like, cool, I don't care, do whatever you want. So the other way to use the CLI is to fire up a server, and that's just Eleventy-serve. So I'll do that, and hopefully I have nothing running on that port already. So right now on localhost 8080, I should have that Markdown file.
Sweet.
And yeah, I'm guessing every new tab is not keeping the
So how did it
size.
know to create that as your index?
So,
Oh, because you called it index.
well, I named my yeah, I called it that. Yeah. So so there's definitely like a logic,
Yeah.
based on this file name, use this output. So if I do make a new file called ray.md, just say hello and save it. You can see already in Visual Studio Code, it did a folder /ray/index.html
Pretty
for
fast.
me. Now, one cool thing is that you also have full control over the output
Sure.
path. So if I didn't want ray/index.html, I could pick something else randomly. Um, not sure
Yeah.
why you would do that. I have done it a couple of times, but it's nice that you have that ability to do
Rather
it.
than have,
One thing I will say, and the docs do.
I was going to say, rather than, and I
What's
keep
that?
cutting you off, rather than having it do it to disk, is there a way to make it do it to memory for performance? Do you know?
I don't believe so.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't think it could do it in memory only. I can't. So one of the things I'm going to show later, there is a configuration thing that
Yeah.
you could do, and you could do things to hide stuff. So in my development, with my 6,000 blog posts, I hide like 90% of that from Eleventy. So my build time is like 2 seconds or so. And actually I could show you how quick it
Yeah.
builds when I
What
hide.
What do you mean by hide
Let me do that
exactly?
real quick. So there is an Eleventy ignore file, which is basically a list of
Yes.
globs. This is the one I'm using for my blog
Yep.
right now. And so I have this. I don't have this checked in GitHub because Netlify builds from GitHub. So I just have this local. When I run local, it ignores everything before 2020. And I could show you. I won't fire server. Mount, see projects, Raymond Camden. I'll just run Eleventy, and it was 1.54 seconds. So that's pretty fast. Like when I'm writing a
Yeah.
blog post, literally, if I want to see it in my browser to see how some code looks or whatever, by the time I Control S, Alt Tab over, it's there already. Or if not, it's there like a second
So
later.
it says 44 files. Does that mean that you've only written 44 posts since the time of the ignore?
Yeah. So this is totally off topic, but I will show it. So that stats page I was
Yeah.
talking about, uh, you could see that my number of
Sure.
posts, 2003, I wrote 222. I somehow did 800 in
Yeah.
2007. Now I'll say like that was before Twitter. So like a lot of times I would do a blog post. That would be a
Got it.
tweet. Like here's a cool post by Nick Rayboy about XYZ. So it'd be like three sentences, and that'd be a
All
blog
right. Yeah,
post.
because that's questionably
But yeah,
high.
but those numbers, yeah, those numbers have fallen quite a bit. So I mean, I'm still averaging two or three a month, which I think is pretty good. But lately, not quite so much. I blame Corona.
Yeah, you could do that. Are those numbers dynamically edited, or are you calculating them yourself?
This is all done via one EJS template. So I look at all my posts, I like loop
Sure.
over them, I gather categories and just do counts. And one of the things I love about the Jamstack is that this particular file, it's horribly written. It's not efficient in any way whatsoever, but
Yeah.
I don't care. Like it runs, it outputs HTML, and like I'm done. So I don't have to care about it being productive, which is why I can't get a job at Google probably because I don't care. So if you're curious, I will show you on like my entire blog. Let me rename Eleventy ignore to Eleventy don't ignore, and we'll let this run. This may be about 2 minutes or so. And I forgot to suppress output, so I apologize for what you're going to see streaming across my terminal in a second. There is a flag to say to not output everything. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to go back to my simpler demo and show you something real quick. So this is the server that I was talking about, the server option. One of the features of Eleventy is automatic browser reload, and I forget what library. I think browser sync they're using. The docs mention this, but until you have like a complete HTML page, it can't auto reload your browser. And if we like view the source on this,
Yeah.
it's just H2 and P.
Got
So
it.
once I get a proper layout in there, then I'll get that cool Eleventy feature of like as I type, it will reload the browser for me. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Cool. So let's just see how that tab is going as my CPU fan.
Don't
Oh,
worry,
it's
my
going
CPU fan's
horribly
going crazy
slow.
too with Open Broadcast Studio for streaming.
It is going hella slow. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. All
Oh, there we
right.
go. It's barfing out lines of terminal. I wonder if it'd be faster though if you maybe there's a quiet mode because I think doesn't it take time to print
Yeah,
as well and clog it up?
I think so. Let's let this finish and consider it like the worst case
Yeah.
version of the build. All right, I'll come back to that. So Yeah, so layouts. So I talked about like needing like the full HTML to actually do the reload. The way that Eleventy handles this is by just adding some front matter, and we all love front matter because it's YAML.
I actually, do they allow for front matter being JSON by chance? They
Yes.
do. All right.
Yeah. So they allow JSON. They allow JavaScript as well. I believe. I think you can even do TOML. And I'm not going to dig through the docs to find it right. Oh, here we go. Front matter data. You can use other formats too. Yeah, JSON, JavaScript, and you can add your own too. Like if you want to do 2ML. As much as I don't like YAML, I'm so used to it for static websites
Yeah.
that it's okay. I only get upset when it's like an array or something. But so I'm just gonna give this a quick set of data, my home page, like this. As soon as I do this, Eleventy is going to try to find a layout file named main.something, and I'll look at all the extensions it requires.
Sure.
Eleventy is pretty good about the errors, so right here in my terminal, it's telling me like there's no directory called includes. That's the default folder it looks in. You can configure that if you want. I don't want to. And I'm just going to drop a main.liquid in here.
Yeah. So I have a question
Again,
now. So why is it now complaining about it includes directory when it wasn't previously? What did I miss?
Because all I had was a Markdown file. I didn't have that front
Oh,
matter.
all right.
So it won't do a layout automatically until you ask it to do a layout, which I think that was something else I saw in Hugo. Like it always wanted a layout
It
of
did,
some
yes.
sort. Yeah, like Eleventy is like, you tell me what you want, I'll do whatever you want. And again, I love that flexibility. So I'm gonna write some HTML real quick. That's gonna be really bad. I'm the layout. I'm gonna drop in my content right here in layout. This is why I don't design websites.
Your websites look just like what my websites look like. You using Bootstrap with me?
Yeah, I like me some Bootstrap. So
There you go.
at this point, there we go. So one thing I noticed is that browser sync sometimes didn't pick up if I added the layout after I started. I'm just going to kill it and just restart it just to be sure. And in theory, if I go back and say, this is me typing on Twitch, yo baby, yo, save it, go back, and oh, you know what? I added the layout, but I didn't actually do proper HTML. I am a bad netizen. I will do that real quick. Add a title. And I'll talk a bit more about these variables as well in a second. And there we go. All right, save this. Let me kill it and restart it again. And now in theory, if I edit my text, get rid of this junk, save it, go back, and it reloaded automatically.
Caught it.
Did it finish over here? That's not bad. So 200 seconds, that's 3 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
For all of your
And
posts.
yeah, so that's 6,000, how many posts total? 6,094.
It's not bad. That's not bad.
I mean, also on Netlify, I've been seeing build times of, initially I was seeing 3 to 4 minutes, the last couple times 6 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, yeah.
If I
And I only ever care if I find a dumb typo.
Yeah. If I had to guess, Netlify is probably caching some stuff too.
Yeah, and it has to push to its CDN and like undo the previous version and load yours. It's doing a lot of magic that I'm happy they do and I don't do. So I am totally fine with 6 minutes. I had with Jekyll at first I had like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
And
that's way
I
too
was
much.
fine with that as well. Yeah.
I think on Hugo I have like 800 blog posts total, and it takes about maybe 3 or 4 seconds, which is nowhere near as long as yours. But I mean, I don't have 6,000 like you do.
And All quality, Nick. All
I
quality.
know, right?
I'm telling you, definitely nothing stupid or silly on my blog.
Maximum Michelin
Um,
stars.
that's that's it. So one thing I want to kind of point out real quick is that like everything I put in my front matter ends up being data that I could use on my pages. So in my main.liquid, I was able to include a title, and I set one in the front matter there, but because my homepage has a title itself, that took over. So I should see, I'm not sure how big that is over the stream, but it does say my homepage on top, which is pretty nice. Any questions from the gallery yet, or?
No, we're just getting comments around that CSS is bad, basically. I don't know. I'm making things up. No, I was throwing in.
CSS is a.
I was throwing in some
What's that?
comments about Tailwind CSS, but it doesn't look like anyone's
Uh,
using that.
yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't used it. I mainly have been doing view related UI stuff. So like
Yeah.
Beautify, what else? Quasar, I just looked at recently as well. But yeah, I rarely, rarely write my own CSS. But because I said that, why not make it really obvious about the auto reload? We'll add a quick body background color. There we go. Lovely. So,
I like how your
at
whole
this
camera just
point,
went yellow when you loaded that screen.
my
Yeah.
webcam. Yeah, this is like jaundice, I guess. Let me pick a slightly less disgusting color and do cocoa. Cool. So yeah, so you can use variables. Pages have data. I'm gonna show like a different example of data later on, but like literally at this point, like we can start building a blog. So what I'm gonna do is show how that could be done, and I'm gonna make a folder called posts, and that's totally arbitrary. Again, Eleventy, unlike other generators, is very like do what you will, and make a Markdown file called alpha, and give it a quick title, alpha. Give it a layout main. By the way, you can chain
Yeah.
layouts if you want. If you want to write your layout in
Sure.
handlebars and your other stuff in liquid, Eleventy is cool with that. And I'm gonna do one thing different on this. I'm gonna give it a tag of alpha. I'm just checking something real
So,
quick.
are you able to
Make
have a
sure.
global configuration? Because for me, I maybe wouldn't want to type in layout main every time. I would want to save myself the 9 or so characters that you've typed in.
So I'm happy you asked that. So Eleventy supports data on the page. So all this crap here, that's all like page level
Yeah.
data. Eleventy will look at some of them in a special way, like layout. It'll say, "Oh, let me find that file and like wrap your crap in it." It's also going to do something special with tags. I'll show in a second. You can actually have a separate file that's data just for this one file. You can also have a file that's data for the entire folder. So instead of doing tags.post on like 5,000 blog posts within a folder, I could have that special file and specify tags post there, and Eleventy will just cascade that across all the files.
That sounds cool.
So yeah, if I did have 5,000 things, I would probably do that instead of writing it, or I would just do it and not worry about it. So I will say this was an issue for my blog because I was using tags to tag my content. I wasn't using tags as a way of saying this markdown is a blog post. Because in Jekyll, because it was in my post folder, it was already considered a blog post. So I could not use that part of Eleventy. But again, because it's so configurable, it took like 30 seconds to write the code to say treat this folder as if it was all blog
Yeah.
post. So I'm gonna save this and I'm just gonna copy a few times just to give us some quick content. And I am gonna rename this to beta. Call this beta. We'll rename this to Gamma. This would be a great time for a
Yeah, can
question.
you open up your includes
Would you like me
directory again
to?
as well,
Let me
just so that way I can gander it at it while you're typing? Just pop that open. All right.
So right now it's just a layout. If I do any includes, like if I have
Yeah.
like my discuss comment stuff is in an include. I would also put my includes in the same folder. And one of the things the Eleventy docs point out is that if you don't like having includes with
Yeah.
layouts, you can definitely separate them if you wanted. Like for my blog, I did not. So I have my layout right there, a default. Yeah, I post default wraps that, and like things like copy.liquid is just a regular include.
Yeah. So there's a question in the chat, and then I have one as well. So is Eleventy limited to output only as HTML, or can you output to CSS, JS, Markdown, text, etc.?
Eleventy will let you output anything you want. You want to output happiness, it will output happiness. Let me rename this goober real quick, and I'll show you an example of that. So one of the things I mentioned was that you can specify how something is output. By default, it's doing like a file slug. So ray.md, it did /ray/index.html. If I do permalink like this, I can do ray.json, and it should output JSON, and it did. Now this is not JSON. I have to do like,
Yeah.
And I'm done.
So we're getting questions that in theory you can template, say, a Java application with Eleventy. What do you think? Maybe.
I think, yeah, I think you could. I don't think you should. How about that?
All right.
Um, so you can output JSON. This is actually wrapping it in a paragraph tag. I know why, but I don't want to fix
Yeah.
it now. Just trust me that you can output raw JSON like I did for, let me get my stats page open. See, permalink stats.json.
And this is a guy that says he didn't like writing
Oh,
EJS, and he opens up an EJS file
I know
anyways.
what it is. Because it was a Markdown
Yeah.
file, it considered it Markdown, so I did the paragraph. So if I did ray.liquid, and I don't have any variable crap in there, but now it should be pure JSON.
Perfect. And then my question was, since you had just mentioned that you keep your discuss kind of thing inside of an includes template, how are you chaining them together? How are you using partials? Because obviously you wouldn't have just a discuss page.
I will show you my blog's layout, and it's pretty big and complex. I didn't build it. I actually bought it, but we could see.
So that's a
I'm
new
gonna
question that I
scroll
have then.
past
You
some
bought it, did you buy it already in Eleventy format, or was it just a general theme that you plugged everything into?
I forget. I don't think. No, it was in Jekyll. Yeah, so it was in Jekyll format, and so I was able to bring it over. You can't just take a Jekyll site and bring it to Eleventy. There's a couple differences. For example, Jekyll has site variables that are global and that just exist. Eleventy does not. But it took me about 2 seconds to make that same variable
Yeah.
work. And then once I did that, my layout pretty much worked as is. Where are my first includes? There's one right there. So that's a basic liquid
Yeah.
include, and it works as expected. So my footer is right there.
I just noticed an optimization you could make, and Crutchcorn, if he's watching, can correct me if I'm wrong. Scroll up to your fonts. I think if you add, what is it, swap equals true at the end of that thing, it will it'll load them differently, so that way you get a higher score in Lighthouse. What is it?
Is it like and swap true?
Yeah, I think it
Like that.
might just be at swap. Crutchcorn is definitely the wizard on this one, or anyone in the chat who might know. Without me looking at what I have in mind, I think that's what it's swap something. You can go look it up again after this, I guess.
Yeah. Tell them to thank you and to let me know.
Yeah. No, it was me that spotted that. I don't know if it was accurate. Never mind. Crutchcorn says he's not too familiar
There
with
we
the
go.
font stuff. I think there's something to it though.
Tell
I
him
think
I'm
there's
very
something with
mad
the
at him.
swap that they recommend using swap now, so that way fonts you don't get kind of that flicker when you load the web page and the font hasn't downloaded yet. If you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Well, we can Google font swap thing. Swap.
Yeah, the font display stuff.
Google Fonts is adding font display. Oh, so it's hence by exactly. Creator of Eleventy. That's
Oh, there you
convenient.
go.
Display equals swap.
There you go. Display equals swap.
Yeah, it actually is that. All right. So you know what? Let's do a build while I'm here. Let me make sure I'm up to date here. Come on. There you go. All right. So I should have just the one file. Liquid git commit. Always write good commit messages. This is a good commit
Oh my
message.
gosh, that's so bad.
So I was doing some testing and I set up my Netlify push notifications to go to
Yeah.
Alexa as just a way to demo Alexa notifications. And I did it and I forgot about it. And I started doing like git pushes like fix damn typo
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And like in my kitchen, it was coming out fix damn typo.
Yeah, you're gonna
All
make
right,
mine
and
go
actually this would be great. We could
spaz
see
out in a second
how
too.
long Netlify.
Behind me.
I will actually show you the build time, and we could see. Yeah, it's building now, so we can come back and see how quick it ran and make sure my
And don't forget
site
to
didn't
zoom in if
break.
you're gonna show us that page.
All right, so back to building a blog. Oh, yep.
And I think I
There you
figured out
go.
that I think there's
And
a
you can see my
delay.
times. And again, so the 6, 6, and 8, that's a bit higher than normal. I think it's what?
Sorry, I think that there's a delay between your audio and my audio, so you're getting things a little after mine. I just figured that out. I thought that we were in sync for a while, but it seems like you're on maybe a 1 or 2 second delay from me. But proceed, it's irrelevant. It's everything's fine so far.
We'll pretend like this is. All right. So, building a blog. I built a bunch of like just crap Markdown files. I put them in a folder. The one thing that I want to point out that I did special was using tags to specify that they're all considered to be post. So what Eleventy will do, like out of the box, is it will notice when multiple pieces of content have the same tags, have the same tag value, and it'll actually make it available in the data that I can use in my templates. I'm going to go to ray.liquid. Actually, I'm going to go to index.markdown. I'm going to go ahead and make this a liquid file so I have more power and just get rid of the hello world. And what I'm going to do is actually work with that data. I'm going to say assign post, and this is liquid syntax to be a bit different in nunjucks, handlebars, etc. But Eleventy is going to put that in a variable called collections.post. And the only reason it's named post is because that's what I used in my tags. So I could assign that, and then again, using some liquid, I could say for post in post, do a little for loop, end it, and write some horrible code here. And I'll explain these values in a second. All right. So let me actually run this, and then I'll explain where I got these values from. Let me make that a variable. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. Go back to the browser. There's my home page. And I broke something. Let's see. Let me just restart it. Always tell hello world. Make sure you're actually running. Get rid of the, get rid of that. I probably made a typo somewhere. Let's do this. There's a special collection called
Yeah.
collections.all. There should be all of my content on the entire site. There we go. So the question is, if that worked, what did I call? Oh, I did post. So not post, but post. My dad. So you asked earlier about like not having to type that for every file in that
Yeah.
folder. If I had done one directory level file, that would have been easier to fix. But I'll keep it like that. And now we should see, ignoring my horrible HTML, but I was able to iterate over that. I can link right to it. Where that data came from, again, it went into collections because of the tags. Everything in that particular array will have a data property where it reads in the data from my
Yeah.
file, and all of my blog posts have a title. At the top level in that array, there's a URL value along with a couple other things that allow me then to link to it without having to hard code anything at all, which is pretty darn nice. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
So I'm getting a question in the chat. So the question is around, is there a way to add a connection to this Eleventy so that way you could do web scraping, any kind of DB access, anything along those lines? Just getting data from a remote source, I guess.
So if the there's a couple ways to answer that, So part of what makes the Jamstack special is that you can use JavaScript to call out to any APIs. So I know like Mongo, for example, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but they have hosted database services and they have JavaScript libraries
Yeah.
that will connect to it in a secure manner for a client-side
Yep.
app, right?
Absolutely. And I assume that for web scraping, you could
So that
probably
would be
include like Cheerio and things, right?
Yeah, so again, like if you want to do something client side, Eleventy is not going to care about the
Yeah.
JavaScript that's in your final result. So that would be one way of doing it. But there's a heck of a lot cooler way of doing that, and that kind of gets back to working with data. So let me kind of like back up a bit before I show that very cool example. So one of the features that Eleventy has is a way to define data for your site and like a hard-coded way. So if I make a folder called underscore data, and again, that folder name is configurable if you want to change it, I can drop a JSON file in here like cats.json and just write regular JSON, name, Luna. So I'm just going to copy and paste a few times. Gamma, and my favorite cat, Pig. So I literally just have a JSON file called cats. It's in the underscore data folder, which Eleventy is going to pick up on and kind of recognize as being special.
Yeah.
And as soon as I do that, I can then access that data. I'm going to add an HR because I haven't used an HR tag in a long time.
So let me turn this around on you too.
And say for cat and cats.
So in regards to the JSON that you're setting right there in that file, this is at build time, obviously. Can you have it consume from a remote JSON file at build time?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Perfect.
So the very last, all I heard was at build time, and then
Yeah,
you
I'm
cut
looking
off
at my
for me.
frames. I'm getting a lot of drop frames. I think my internet might be getting throttled again. It's been happening a lot in California from all of the pandemic stuff. So please excuse the internet problems that I'm having, or maybe Ray's having them too. I don't know. But no, the question was around consuming data, like consuming a JSON file at build time. So if I wanted to populate the content of my site at build time, but I didn't want to kind of have that kind of data file exist locally, could I do that? I think that's what I'm interpreting it as.
I intentionally wanted to show the static example first. What's that?
I think that's what I'm interpreting the question as.
Okay. Yeah, so The answer is yes. But like I want to show baby steps at first. I want to show like something like this. Cats.json is not very
Yeah.
realistic. You typically wouldn't have the hard coded data, but like for my blog, for example, I mentioned Jekyll has site-wide data in a configuration file. I didn't have that in Eleventy, so I literally went into data and made site.json, and I copied the values I had from Jekyll, and this is
Yeah.
static, but it made site dot whatever available in my templates, and the code that I had for Jekyll just happened to just work fine. So that would be hard coded. Let me just actually show this running because maybe I'm wrong. Nope, there are the cats. So yeah, that worked fine. So if your question is, well, I definitely don't want static, flat files. I want something dynamic, like maybe hitting Mongo, but only at build time.
Sure.
If you create a .js file, and I'll call mine films.js, you can write anything you want here at all, anything that works in Node. So I'm going to write a real quick. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to copy it. Forgot I had this done already. All right, don't look at this yet. Wait till I write it. So this is, 7-line Node script. I'm using Node Fetch.
Yeah.
I am hitting the Star Wars API. My file name is films.js. Eleventy is going to execute this at build time. It's going to make the result value available as films. And in this case, I'm hitting the Star Wars API. I'm asking for the films, parsing that JSON and returning it. So if I go back into my index homepage, let me add a few labels here so people actually know what I'm doing. I can do the same thing for my films.
So I think I found the source of my network problems.
For film and films.
I found the source of my network problems, I think. So there was a computer in this office that was backing up at full bandwidth to Amazon, many gigabytes. So this is probably eating through my network right now. I stopped it, so it should clear up in just a second.
Cool.
But go on, sorry.
So if that person indeed was asking, it's all right. So like if that person was asking about hitting some API, hitting a database, whatever, at build time, this is an example of it right here. I'm hitting that Star Wars API. The data is available for my Eleventy site. If I look at the static output, the index.html, there are the films. And so this was one of two things that like sold me on Eleventy, just seeing how easy that particular thing was.
I'm getting a response saying that was a perfect example. Thanks.
Great. Cool. Yeah. So I'm just looking at my notes to see like what I want to show off next. I mentioned that like if you want a data a data thing for one particular file, Eleventy supports it. If you want it for a directory, it supports that as well. The other thing that I want to point out that's kind of important is configuration. The way that Eleventy supports that is via a .11d. I love Eleventy. I hate the word Eleventy.js file. Where you do module.exports, and they pass in Eleventy config. Let me spell it right. And it's within here is where you can change behavior. You can change how things work. I mentioned that the tagging feature didn't work from my website because I used tags to say like, this is about JavaScript or this is about Alexa. So I needed a different way to support, saying where my posts are. This is where you configure all of that type of stuff. I'm going to show you my particular one for my site. Just keep in mind it's a bit messy because it works. But like one of the first things, like focus on the stuff on top here. So one thing that Eleventy is a little bit weird. It's not weird, but if Eleventy doesn't recognize a file type, like CSS, for example, it will
Sure.
ignore it. So it won't copy it to your output directory. And it does that because it thinks I want to be as secure as possible. And I understand that. It was very troublesome when I first started. And the particular documentation page is really, really unclear about it. There's a bug file now to make that better. But luckily, it's like one line to fix. So all these lines here basically say, hey, Eleventy, copy my CSS, copy my JavaScript, my images, my fonts, and here are a few random other files that I want you to copy into my output. So it's a thing that you'll run into if you're working with Eleventy. It's also really easy to
Sure.
fix. My fix for post, let me scroll down to that. So when I in my demo site, when I used tags equals post, it put that in collections.post. I could add my own random stuff to the collections object with 11 config dot add collection, and there's a multiple different ways that you can do it. If I want to, for example, add the Star Wars API data as collection information, I could do that in here. But they also support the use case of, oh, I have a folder of crap. Let me pass you a glob, and we'll put that in. Uh, these particular, yeah, normally that's enough. For my particular blog, I had to modify things just a tiny bit to make it work for me. But are you hearing that piano?
No, are you hearing things?
That's my son. Like I told all of my kids to be quiet except for him.
It's all good.
So he probably has no idea. So I am, if you see me on my phone right now, I'm not phoning it in. I am texting him real quick to say, "Hey, I'm on Twitch. Please stop."
It's all good, man. I can't
Smiley
hear it, and even if
face.
I did, it's all good. Anyways, I'm fearful that my kids are gonna come in here screaming around naked. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, I'm trying to be also like be cool. Like he's a
Yeah,
gamer, so he knows Twitch.
there you
So
go. You got some street
maybe
cred
be
now.
that's it. No, I have no cred in this house at all. So yeah, that's the configuration thing. I know we're coming up to an hour, so I'm just looking
Yeah,
at my notes to see real quick. So a few things I want to point out that you will run into. So 11 ships with handlebars, liquid, pug, all these things. It ships at least in terms of liquid with an older liquid. And come to find out, liquid has a really cool feature. Okay, uh, so like this is how you output a variable in liquid. Really, really simple, right? It supports a thing called filters, right? Where I can pass a filter, and this is just a function, and your value goes into function, and you do whatever you want, you output
yeah,
a value. Really, really handy. Liquid has this feature where if the filter doesn't exist, it just ignores it. I didn't know
sure.
that. And I love slash hate liquid now because of that. So I ran into two things going from Jekyll to Eleventy. Jekyll adds things to liquid, it adds filters. Liquid is newer than what Eleventy ships, and by default, Liquid just ignores bad filters, which drove me crazy. So I had to actually like write my own filters to make up for things that Jekyll had added and things that were just a little bit too old for Eleveny's version of
Yeah,
Liquid. And like me, that's the only issue I have with Eleveny is that I think they need to document a bit better. That they do support throwing in your own version of Liquid, but I think they need to be a bit more proactive in terms of, hey, we support of these languages the current version and one version back.
yeah,
There's no like policy if that makes sense. So
sure.
I feel like I have to complain at least once about everything I love. That's my only complaint.
We're getting a question then, and it might be related to maybe you don't have a complaint about this, but the question is, how is the Eleventy error output stack? In your opinion, is it helpful or is it cryptic?
I think it was great. Like I don't remember if y'all saw, but like when I first added my layout and it didn't exist, the folder, it was very clear. So I'm going to rename includes to includes two. And oh, what the heck's code? Visual Studio Code just like went crazy.
It's all good. My computer's going
Let me
crazy
kill
right
it.
now too.
All right, it's back. So 11e, there you go, very clearly on top. Directory does not exist for main underscore include. So if I fix that, that error should go away. Why are you like going gray, code? That's cray cray. So 11 is happy again. If I specify the wrong layout file, like main2, it should say, ah, that's interesting. I think, let me kill and start it again. See what it says. Yeah, layout does not exist, main2. So in general, I think it's pretty good. I'm not really sure what it does if you screw up liquid. I mean, outside of the filter, because liquid just ignores that. But like, if we did something bad in liquid, I'll do like this. That should be a syntax
I hope
error.
so.
So 11e is okay with it. Let's see what liquid did. Yeah, it just didn't do the assignment right. So I think liquid is just kind of swallowing the error. If I did just that. There we go. It tried to output that, which, yeah, I don't know. It's throwing errors. Yeah, so you definitely like you have to be cognizant of what Eleventy does and cognizant of what Liquid does. And again, the version of Liquid that's shipping with Eleventy, which is a bit old in my opinion, and should be updated.
Yeah. So I have a question now. This is a question from me. So for example, in Hugo, I do a lot of post-processing of my data. And even now, Hugo includes a lot of that baked in through pipes. So
Yeah.
can you do that kind of stuff in Eleventy? And for example, say I wanted to minify my output. Let's just use that as an example. Is that a possibility?
I don't believe so. I'm gonna look at the docs. I'll be
Yeah,
honest. Well, you'll see me. I don't remember seeing that mentioned. Um, so to be clear, on one particular template page, I could take content and I could transform it,
yeah,
right? So I could take a block of CSS and I could run it through a minification filter, and it would output as
sure.
minify. Um, but I feel like you're asking more when you output to the static version, do it at that point, and I'm going to say no, but um, my confidence on being right on that is not terribly high. Actually, how about this? 11D CSS minification. Inline minute, there you go. One of the quick tips. I just worked in this area as well. Oh yeah, so they're using a filter. So they're doing kind of like what
Yeah,
I said. It'd be if you imagine this, if this is CSS data, it'd be like this.
awesome. Yeah, that's how it would look in Hugo, which is what I'm doing right now. So that's fantastic.
Happy to be wrong about that. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. That's nice. I like that a lot.
So if you're not already doing that, maybe you want to start doing that on your site. Give it some performance boosts, right?
Netlify is supposed to be doing that for
Yeah, I
me.
know.
Supposed 18 minutes. That's definitely and oh, well, so that changed, impacted every page on my site versus like typically a new blog post only changes about three
Yeah.
pages. So I'm not surprised that it's doing that. Let me make sure I didn't break anything.
So did we just crush all of your SEO that you've had brewing with these changes? The,
You want to do like an
and
audit
that
real
was just
quick?
me recommending that you swap to the font, right? I just ruined your whole site.
Why not? I'll do a quick report on
Well,
that.
hopefully that audit says that you
That's
don't have font problems anymore.
So I ran it like a week or
Yeah.
so ago. So the Eleventy folks have been running performance leaderboards, and I had like 80 something, I think, and I was fine. Like I am fine with 80 something. And because I said that, it's gonna come out at like 20% or something.
So the goal that we're trying to beat right now is 80% then.
Yeah, again, I don't remember the exact number. I remember thinking it was good enough. Like I was fine with it, if that makes
Sure.
sense. There you go, 82, 79.
So I gave you
I'll
two
take
points
it.
then.
Yeah, I will give you those two
There you go.
points.
We can't see that. I think it's too small on our end, but I think if nobody's seen this audit before, it's in Chrome. There's a tab, and it's what is it, Lighthouse, right? It'll judge your website based on different criteria, and the better it is, the better it's going to rank in a Google search.
So I will say, this is not Chrome, Nick. This is Edgium. It's the
Oh no,
future.
you're not on. Oh no, this is not good. All right, I take that back. I guess it expands beyond Chrome now.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I could do more, I guess, but it seems fine for me. I've tested on mobile and it seems fine.
Sweet. So, anything else that you want to add about Eleventy? I think so. I mean, before you add anything, I think I might actually try this for email newsletter templates because those are
Hmm.
HTML. I don't know if I want to swap out my entire Hugo site. I'm pretty invested right now, and it makes me nervous. But I think I could definitely use this for other things because of how lightweight it is.
So it's funny you mentioned email
Uh
templates,
oh,
because I have
you
a
got a
blog
blog on
post.
everything.
Eleventy, adding another template language to Eleventy, and the language I add is MJML, which is a language for email templates.
Got it.
And I show multiple ways of how to get Eleventy to parse .mjml files. So bam, your work is done. I will send you an invoice.
All right, we'll see.
You
I'm
can
gonna
buy
look
me
at it.
coffee.
I'll have a look. Maybe I'll click that buy you a coffee button in the end.
That or like visit my wish list because nobody, I will say because I'm live, like nobody visits my wish list and my birthday is coming up. So now is a
I was
perfect
gonna say, do you have
time
some
to
scary
visit
wish list
my
items that people are just afraid to even click that purchase button on?
Lord no. Game books and games.
There you
That's
go.
it. Let's see. Anything? I said nobody, so why should it be something? Yeah, see, nobody loves Ray. Back when I was doing Cold Fusion blog posts, I'd get about 3 or 4 a month, actually. It was insane how often that happened.
I didn't even know that you could see how many people purchase something for you.
Well, I mean, you could see how many things are purchased.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So then, I mean, is there anything else that you want to add for this stream? I think it was really good. A good introduction to Eleventy, something that's exploding right now on for website generation.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the variety of static site generators out there, they all have a philosophy, they all have a way of doing things. Eleventy just seems to be let me give you as many tools as possible and let me let you, tweak whatever you want. And I like that approach versus other ones which are you will do things my way or
Yeah.
else.
So then, yeah. So I guess for logistical closeout reasons here, so this is a live Twitch stream. It will be available on demand as a recording. I'm going to upload it on YouTube. Probably not today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the day after. It'll pop up eventually. I added the YouTube link in the chat. So you'll see the whole thing from start to finish. I don't even edit them, so all of the craziness, all of this Raymond stroking his beard right now, it's still going to be in there raw. So it's all good. If you're new to this Twitch channel, please hit the follow button. The follow button, it's free to do. It's not the same as subscribe. Follow, you'll become a follower and you'll get notifications every time this channel goes live because you don't want to miss this kind of stuff. It's high quality content. I added a few links into the chat along the way. So I included Ray's website, raymondcamden.com. Also included his Twitter. Did you want to include any other links, Ray? Any plugs that you want to do for yourself? Anything going on?
Just well, my birthday and my Amazon wish list, sure. But definitely make sure you share 11ty.dev. Make sure you share that.
Done. All right, then. I mean, if there's nothing else going on, then I appreciate everyone who took time out of their evening to participate in this stream. Thank you.